Maybe live stream.
Yeah.
You know, you're
Live streaming, can you pause this as well?
you can't pause the live stream. I think you're just gonna get this, you're not gonna get recordings pause. The live stream is not
Oh,
paused.
okay, that's fine, that's fine.
So,
All right, I'm just gonna pack mine up. And we shouldn't have to do anything, right? It will do its own thing.
you just have to remember to,
Turn it, yes,
unrecord,
stop recording and
and end meeting and just put the lid
unplug it
down.
and,
Hey, don't unplug it, just put the lid down and I'll come get it in the
Okay.
morning. Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
I warn you now that I'm gonna need a little help next month.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thanks. Okay.
I had to come early because I had to renew my car registration.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
two
but
birds, etc.
2 birds with 1 stone. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a little premature.
Too bad my daughter isn't here because she teaches and they use this exact owl technology. They use this-
Bring her sometime and she can help us
Yes.
understand.
Yes.
Oh, come back. Oh. I know I've done this too. I got over the sciatica. I've been feeling really good and out gardening yesterday. And I was, as far as I know, not doing anything extreme, and suddenly, you know, all down the left side of my back, my tailbone, the muscles just all knotted up. So I took painkillers and did my sciatica exercises and I took it easy the rest of the day. And this morning I woke up feeling perfectly fine.
Uh-huh.
I go out and after 15 minutes of gardening, I'm right back where I was yesterday.
Oh, no.
The only good thing is that I've been seeing this one osteopath,
Uh-huh.
and I called her office, got the answering machine with a long message that said how to page her. And I paged her and she called me back in 10 minutes. I gave me a whole list of things to do.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like, all right, I'm better than this morning.
Can you sit okay? Or is it?
Now,
people who sit?
standing is hard, walking, I've got it, I just move the wrong way and getting old is not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do any sudden like lurches or reach for something like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, but no, just doing, I don't even know what.
Does heat or cold help at all?
I think heat might help.
Heat. We have one of those, like, at home, we have these heated like neck wraps and stuff like that. You put them in the microwave and that's helpful for.
I don't have those, but I do have a heating pad.
That's helpful for my migraines, heat.
Oh, I've had migraines for years.
Oh, poor thing. Yeah, they're awful.
They are. They make you throw up?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they last for 4 days.
Mine, I don't think that migraine lasts more than 2, but then I'd be just washed out days after that.
And did you just all of a sudden stop getting them?
Fairly, not suddenly, but I had them from the time I was senior in high school until menopause. And menopause did something, I'm just confident. That changed my body chemistry and suddenly, I think the bleeding, that, you know, your body loses a lot of useful chemicals every month. Anyway, change of life really made a difference. But before that, I'd found various kinds of drugs that helped stuff.
Yeah. Well, people told me that about menopause, so I'm obviously, I've been there like for a long time, but it
It
didn't
didn't do
really-
it for you.
No, no.
Well, that's
I was-
really not fair.
No, I was hopeful, but, but no,
Shoot.
yeah. So I have medication, and I've tried all the different ones like Imitrex and Frova and now Triptan, I've tried many different medications. Yeah.
I did, a lot of it was diet. Cutting out caffeine did a lot to help.
That's interesting. 'Cause I love caffeine.
It's, I read this book, don't remember the title, but the author's name is Andrew Weil. And he's
Okay.
sort of a
Yeah.
fringy, he's an MD, but kind of on the fringe.
Yeah.
But he was pointing out
Huh.
what caffeine does. And so I went cold turkey. And, hi Henry.
Hi.
And I had migraines solid for a month.
Yeah.
And for the first time in years, I would wake up in the morning, like when I was a kid, and ready to go, instead of my husband crawls out of bed and down to the coffee pot.
Oh, because that's how I feel now. It's like, I just can't wait to have that cup of coffee.
When the prospect of getting rid of the migraines was presented, giving up coffee for 30 years was no loss at all. And now I'm sneaking
Well, not
back
after
to
the first year.
Yeah,
It's the first year that's gonna be tough.
You look very, doesn't he look, you look so tropical. with
he
your
looks
big-
like he's
What
at
can I
the
say?
beach.
Yeah, she just came back from Hawaii or something.
Well, it's the shirt plus the hat.
It's a nice look.
It's summer out there.
It's good.
It is. Right, there's several more steps to this. I mean, using the town computer,
I don't want to know.
well, it's so much easier because it's all built in.
So,
That's, yeah, put down.
did I take your place? I think I did. Do you want me over there?
No, it's okay.
I don't think we have assigned seats.
Well, I know I'm over there, but then you were busy over there.
So you're fine. Do you mind if I open the window?
No, well, I'm
I
not sure
had a
it'll help.
bout of COVID at the beginning of the month. I'm negative. I've been testing
Oh.
negative for a few days.
Okay,
But it's really all over the place, so.
Oh, yes, it
is. And that's why if we can have a full ventilation, I would appreciate it.
sure,
Should we open the door too?
sure.
Have you been traveling? No. I mean, I don't travel all the time. Well, but as well, the flights are just insane right now.
Although I have to say, my daughter was traveling and both their flights were coming and going were perfect, if not a little bit early.
Oh, wow,
So, yeah.
that's exceptional.
Lucky.
Sandra, do you have a blank piece of paper?
Sure.
Okay, so actually, can we move that table a little back?
Just one sheet, good.
No, no, stay home and, the only place I can have a toilet is at the supermarket or actually in my own backyard. I have a gathering and, somebody has shown me. But everything is done and over with.
Did you feel really, really poorly or just?
I felt, well, I thought I had a cold and I felt very tired for a number of days. And that was it. But my energy had been good after that. I've been doing everything I've been doing.
So would you just tested yourself just for curiosity and then realize that you had COVID?
Well, I had a party, and after the party, people started saying, well, I don't feel well, and somebody started testing. So then I tested, and I said, oh dear, I'm positive. And so everybody has been keeping track, and some people have taken medicine. I'm not sure it helped, because I think I came out of it faster than some people who had.
The Paxlovid?
Yeah, Paxlovid or whatever.
So how many people got it?
Well, so I did. Tony and Kevin, Anne and Vish. The girls on the other side that were new with their mom, that's 8. Rolf Winter, 9. Yeah, and Carol, 10. So, yeah. And we were outside. Okay?
Where it's not supposed to happen.
So 6 feet is not even enough. I mean, let's see, somebody has it. And that's the key, because you may have it and not be aware of it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So I get a lot of headaches, so the headache was the only, symptom.
I didn't have a sore
wouldn't really
throat.
know.
Yeah, people have complained of sore throat. I didn't have any sore throat. I didn't have any fever. All right, so I know my sense of.
I've got your mission statement.
Yeah,
So I thought that was very good.
I just cut the pace and went all around and tried to expand because,
That's what I forgot to read.
Do you want it? I got it.
Do you want it? Okay, because otherwise I pull it out. my computer. This way I don't have to get out the computer again.
You're welcome.
oh, switching seats.
I did
Um,
your place. I'm sorry.
I don't know, it's like the church with a pew, they always sit at the same pew. Over here by son, mix everything up.
I'll move it a little. Catherine says.
Oh, but she, this, Theo has to be,
Exposed to COVID.
she has to be,
Catherine's been exposed. to
Who has?
COVID.
I've had it.
Oh, you have it.
I don't have it now.
Had
I mean, obviously, if I had it, I wouldn't be here.
I think Theo has to be there, right? Because she's running the thing.
Well,
Okay,
because
Nobody's
it's
running
here,
anything.
yeah,
It runs,
through.
the only thing,
then I'll
when we
sit there.
start, we have to start the recording.
Hi, Henry. Hi, Linda. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello?
This is for my little lost dog on the island. You heard about the little lost dog on the island? Well, we don't, no, not me. Somebody who moved, had to go back to Massachusetts, but we sighted it. We know kind of where it is, but
Oh.
it's very skittish. So I'm just gonna sit, and after this meeting, I'm gonna sit for like, half an hour. People haven't know where, and you're leaving food for her, but she's very some of the little thing.
Oh.
We'll get her somehow.
So Catherine, which one was it you said you liked?
Excuse me?
Of the mission statements, you said there's one you like the best.
I can't hear what you said.
Mission statements. The mission statements.
The gardener one.
Okay. Which is short.
They're switching, I don't know why they're switching, mixing the
Watch, I
all up.
have the phone here, but only
Mixing
Okay.
it all up.
Well, you can just step over it.
Yeah,
I
I
just want you to lift your legs.
Ah.
Did we get them?
Are you going to the beach? You have the beach basket.
Catherine emailed it to us.
Of course. Zoom?
We gave up and we are using the town's computer because the Zoom was fine, but we couldn't get on YouTube. I'm gonna start recording.
Got some show and tells. Does anyone need an agenda?
Nobody has a extra copy of that, do you?
Mission.
When did you have that?
No, that's just my own copy.
Oh.
I have that. I have one. And also,
I think this, the only change is to the Zoom link, I think.
Okay, first of all, let's call this meeting to order.
Sure.
I am passing out copies of the agenda and also of the ballot. And I will read you something when it's time to vote. I got an email from John Spear. We cannot have a secret ballot, and that's certainly within the authority of the selectmen. And we'll talk about that after we get through the old business.
Actually, first is adjustments to agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And the first adjustment I would suggest is that I believe election of officers comes at the beginning. That's what, for example, the select board did last night before they got to old order business.
All right, and that's certainly appropriate.
And I have a couple other adjustments to agenda.
And I do have one.
Yes, now we have to call the meeting to order, is that correct?
We did, yes.
Okay, let's see.
You did anyways.
Yes,
yeah.
okay, we did that. Okay,
Right.
adjustments to the agenda.
So the first adjustment I would suggest is election of officers comes.
I tend to agree with that.
Okay, right. And maybe it should even come before the rest of the adjustments to agenda.
All right, that sounds fine. So what you have in front of you then is the ballot, and I'll read you now John's response. He said, Leslie asked me if the Conservation Commission could use a written ballot to elect the officers. I was nearly certain it couldn't, so I asked Terry to double check with MMA Legal. MMA advised Terry that there exists an opinion from the Maine Attorney General's office that a public body that is subject to Maine's Freedom of Access Act, which the town's Concom is, cannot vote by secret ballot, which presumably a written ballot would be. Also, a member of the public body must be present, either in person or remotely, in order to vote. If a person voted remotely, he or she must state his or her name at each vote. So what that means is this ballot I just passed around will now not be a secret ballot. I can talk to you later about why I thought that was a good idea, but nonetheless, are you suggesting, Sandra, that I put this in now or wait till we
Yes,
got
we
through?
do it now.
All right, let's do it now. Awesome.
And
Good. I
I
can
think that
I'm loving that. All right, so what I had done with this ballot is last year, if you recall, our first meeting, we all sat here and we said, okay, who would like to be chair or, and I nominated Catherine. Catherine declined. Then somebody nominated me and I accepted. And it occurred to me later that there might have been someone else who actually would have liked to be considered for chair, but never got a chance to say that. So I said, this by circulating this in advance, we know exactly who's willing to act as president, and that is Henry and Sandra,
It's chair, actually.
whatever.
Chair and vice chair. I
Right.
don't think we have a president.
Okay, you are right. It's chair. We suggest that accordingly. Chair. Oh, I'm gonna look at it. No, I'm not happy. I'll have lots of suggestions for you.
Okay, so what we're down to, if I could
Yes.
just
No, can I
jump in,
please?
is we've got Henry and me saying we're willing to be chair
That's
or vice
clear.
chair. But nobody's nominated either of us.
Um,
And so what we're gonna need is nominations and seconds. And then I just wanna say now that obviously one of us will be one and one will be the other because nobody else is
That's
stepping up.
exactly right.
But I'm gonna abstain from the vote because I'm one of the choices.
Oh,
But you
you're
don't have-
perfectly
You
capable of
go
voting for
voting for
yourself.
yourself.
So
yeah.
Well,
that
Because you
was-
run for office does not mean you can't vote.
No.
You know, you're trying to
You
get-
cannot vote for yourself. In fact, it actually, I think diminishes the process, and that was a reason for a secret vote, is that somebody could vote for themselves without looking like they were voting for themselves.
Yeah,
So
well,
anyway, but
Maybe there is
it,
no shame. I mean, if you want the job.
It's such a
obviously-
small over.
you say
Okay,
you want the job.
all right. If
So
that's-
in other words, this was very clear. I asked people to say if they would not serve in a position. And that's what this is, the
Lots of
people who said they
no's.
wouldn't do it. So it's gonna
Yeah.
save us a lot of time, because clearly, we know the secretary is gonna be Linda, because nobody else was willing to serve in that job. So we're down to chair.
Well, I'll start off with the easy one. I'll nominate Linda for secretary.
I second it.
All in favor?
I approve, yes.
And do we have anybody on Zoom? Are we all here?
No.
Oh,
No,
this is awesome.
There apparently is no one on Zoom.
Wonderful. So,
And I nominate Henry for chair.
okay, and I nominate Sandra
Well,
for chair.
well, I'll second.
Wait, one at a time.
Just it needs to be done.
Henry seconded his nomination.
Okay. And it's appropriate if I now nominate you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
I
I'll
nominate
second.
I second that. Yes.
So we have two people who are nominated. And I guess we're going to proceed with the vote. Would all of those who are in favor of Henry?
Should we authorize them to give a short statement?
I think
to do that.
you all have
Campaign
had a
speech?
year with us and kind of know what we're about.
But no, that's the point. I mean, we have a huge charter.
Well,
So, you know,
I'll say
priorities.
this
That's a
much.
good idea.
I'm willing
I
to
like
serve in any capacity.
Yeah,
For you
okay.
to serve
I
on.
appreciate that. That's nice.
I don't think that's what she's asking you though. If you were chair, what is it that you see as your agenda?
The most important thing I see that we can do as a board, get started tonight with the mission statement, but the next thing is to really figure out what process that we're going to use in order to, and I think that you'll agree with me 100% on this. It's not like you're not doing this, because you brought it up many times yourself, but it's the wetland part of this that we really need to do, because that's part of our statutory responsibilities.
Henry's in favor.
And as much as in other conservation commission I served on, we did a lot of stuff for the community, but the primary thing you need to pay attention to is the statutory responsibilities that you have. Like, you know, the state authorizes and requires that we do certain things, requires that we do certain things and authorizes us to do things. And we need to start catching up on that. I don't think that in the last year, it's getting together the board and understanding how to work as a board. I'm a firm believer in the fact that government should be slow. Because when you have fast government, you get things like the Patriot Act. I mean, it just, you know, so it needs to take its time for the board to work together. But that is what I see as the agenda, is to catch up on our statutory responsibilities.
Sandra?
Actually, I don't agree.
All right?
And I have talked to Annette Nagel and briefly to someone at St. George. Annette points out that a lot of the conservation commissions have taken their time getting to mapping. But that the scope of what is within our purview is huge. And we cannot do it all, particularly if all we are is a group of right now 6 and hopefully 7 with a couple of associate members. That St. George has been at it for many years, and they have now gotten pretty thoroughly into the mapping, but that's a huge task. My priority, I think an important priority is connecting with the town, getting more of the townspeople aware of what we're doing, giving their feedback on which of the gazillion conservation related matters are most important to them, getting them on board as volunteers and associate members so that we have the person power to do the kind of heavy lifting that we're going to need to do. So I'm also focused on educational programs, informational, learning what's out there. And I'm open to input from other commission members as to what they think are the most important things to do first and to do next. So that's where I am.
Does anyone have a question of the two candidates? No? So is Madam Secretary, is it appropriate to call the vote? Yes. Okay. Then first for chair, not president. All those in favor of Henry being elected chair, Conservation Commission for the coming year, please signify by raising your hand. Okay.
Well, that's 4 or 6, so that's it.
Okay, so, all right. And all those in favor of Sonda as vice chair? And all those in favor of Linda?
I don't know, I guess so.
You have to do it.
I thought we already voted on it.
No, we just submitted.
I'm just,
We have.
all right, wonderful. So I guess that means I'm done.
We should, I vote for Linda. I mean, everybody else
I
expressed
my
what they
hand, I
voted.
voted.
We didn't really.
Formally, you're not even voting for yourself.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to be the
I'm
first
sorry you didn't
chair.
want to continue.
I will discuss that later in the meeting. I have some things that I think are critically important that I want to work on.
I get it, I get it.
All right, I will exchange places with Sandra.
Are you okay just saying it? I've got muscle spasms and I'd rather not move if I don't
Oh
have
my
to.
Right.
goodness, that's terrible.
I know.
All right, no problem.
There was discussion on changes. You had something else you wanted to change on the agenda.
Yes, if we're up to that now.
Yeah.
Right. So one piece of old business not on the agenda right now is an update on a possible educational program on invasives versus natives,
Okay,
which I was asked to look into.
update invasive species.
Invasives versus natives, yeah, or whatever. And then under new business, I see that there's an item called Report on the Maine Climate Conference on June 17. But following up on that, at the select board meeting the next day or so, Theo proposed that the town have a workshop on community resilience partnerships, because a big deal that came out of that a meeting in Augusta was that there's a lot of grant money available, but we're gonna have to get on it quickly.
That's what I was going to report.
So I wasn't
Other
clear
business.
whether you were just gonna talk about the meeting or what is going to happen at
I
the
will
workshop,
talk
which
about-
is scheduled tomorrow.
I plan to do that.
Right. So
That was
Cynthia, what you're
the
saying
concern.
is that you had that listed here. in the
Because I
agenda.
wanted to give a report on
Okay,
that. That's why I put it in the new business.
But it will include what's happening in the workshop tomorrow.
You can ask me questions when we get to that agenda.
okay. Cynthia, I mean,
Yes, I have an item that I would like us to consider for discussion at some point. And during, same thing, the select board meetings, there have been on several occasions discussion of forming a recreation committee. And the select board at this point is hesitant on it, wondering whether it falls under our responsibilities. And so I'd like us to, I'd like that topic to be open
So,
for discussion.
what you're saying is that the selectmen approached you on whether or not,
No, they did
No,
not approach me
they
at all.
Okay.
It was an open public discussion. Penny pushed to have a recreation commission created.
yeah,
And there was less than full enthusiasm from the select board. And the discussion was open as to, is it necessary? Where does it fall? Is it already under our own responsibilities? So, we could, there are infinite options as to what could happen.
yeah.
So do we want to take a lead? Do we want to cooperate? Do we want,
All right, so that's, put that under new business, and basically it will be whether or not we want to pick up any responsibilities related to
or whether they're
town
already
programming,
included in our
recreation,
charter?
recreation, right, okay.
I think they're not necessarily included.
Let's not talk about this
Okay.
now.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
what I got that listed is,
Fair enough.
it'll end up being on the agenda for next week, and we may discuss it if we have time at the end of the meeting, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be on for next month?
Right, yeah. Report on the September roadside cleanup, coastal cleanup. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the whole thing, didn't I? Reviewing it. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any alterations anybody wanted to make?
Were there any, Linda?
There was only one, and I didn't agree with you where Sandra quite rightly pointed out to me that Elaine Sparka was not mentioned as a commissioner who is no longer with us. So I plugged in her name.
Okay,
It's very simple. So
Okay.
just plugging in her name.
all right,
Which I did.
so that's the only addition.
That was the only one.
Okay. Anything else? I'll make a motion to accept the
Is
minutes.
Eileen officially retired,
Yes.
resigned from our
She
commission?
did.
What you were saying, there's something else you wanted to see in
No,
there?
I was asking whether Eileen that officially resigned.
Oh,
Yes, and she's not been replaced.
It has been accepted.
okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as with a small correction that has been referenced at this meeting.
I second.
Second that, all those in favor?
Uh,
Aye, and that's unanimous. Thank you for that. Roadside cleanup, September.
Are we?
I'm
Is this more
assuming
like
that's not
coastal?
roadside, it's the shorefront,
Yeah,
more than-
riparian, or whatever you want to call it, yeah, September roadside, so coastal.
Is
Now,
that
this
what you
is
did last
roadside
year?
/ coastal, is that intentional that it's both?
No, did we do that in September last year? When did we do that?
We did, and it was coastal and roadside. And then there
It
was,
was?
some people were doing roads, and there were some people that were doing the shoreline. And it just people could choose what they wanted to do.
I mean, I see no problem with it being both things. Other than the fact that manpower is an issue, and, you know,
Well, if somebody is interested in cleaning up the roadside but not the coast,
oh, and
they
then
have an opportunity.
there's
to say,
also the
"Oh,
ability, how easy it is for some people to walk along the shoreline.
Well, that's
some to
right,
walk-
that's
yeah,
why
right,
they
yeah.
have a choice.
Right, I'm gonna, one of the things I'll do here is, it kind of relates to this, is I did a breakdown of what I thought should happen with the spring roadside cleanup or Earth Day cleanup. A lot of the things is gonna be the same. So, does anybody else have anything to say on this particular issue? First of all, no, okay.
Right.
Yes,
I think that one of the jewels of South Thomaston is the salt marsh.
yeah,
And that we should always include the buttermilk area, even though it fringes on the town of Thomaston, in any cleanup.
I mean the parking area along the road.
Well, actually, right into the marsh, because things flow into it.
Right,
So I'm
okay.
pretty sensitive, as well as the boat ramps and things in town, but that area needs to be.
All right, give me 1 second to catch up. No?
Linda and I actually did it one year, I think, we worked on that part of it.
Okay, so number one is that, what's the name of that?
That's actually the Tyler Management Area. It's a
Okay.
state managed area,
It's state managed?
yes.
Okay,
Roy Waldo, Tyler. I think it is.
all right.
I think that's one of the worst roads in South Thompson.
Well, it blows out
It's
the-
going
yeah.
toward the
Yeah.
landfill too. on
And
transfer station.
Dublin Road is also, I can go every day.
Mhm.
All right, well, here, I'm just gonna read quickly through what I came up with on the other, on the topic of Earth Day cleanup. Well, essentially, it's when you need to put it on the agenda, I won't go through that part of it. We really need to spend more time trying to publicize what we're doing, in order to increase community participation, right? One of the things I noticed when I was talking with people at the school when they were coming in, and the thing about having those grabbers is, a big problem was ticks. And you're less likely to pick up ticks if you're reaching into the brush with one of those than you are with your hands. And also, as I noticed that the number of the people that did participate were of a certain age, were bending over for like 45 minutes and picking up cans as a pain in the back. So I have a feeling that if there's any way that we can take any of the funding that we have, and purchase some grabbers and stuff like, you know what I'm talking about?
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I think it's a good idea for us to have those.
How expensive are they?
I really don't know. I
Considering we
mean,
have a
I'll
hundred
start,
The
I'll
good
start,
ones are.
I'll start looking into it. I mean, if we can only get a couple a year, it'd be nice to be able to offer them, and then you can see whether or not, we've used them in the other town I was in, and we didn't have a real problem with getting them back and things like that.
I own one, and I would say it's a big help, especially if, we did it late this spring, so it was much easier to go,
Yeah.
push around the grass and brush.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the budget we have, with what we have in mind.
Well, no, I know, and I understand that, and I have a feeling that I ended up buying them. Too. So anyways,
Well, we could get like 5 and then award them to the people who pick up the most trash, so that.
right. So what I'm looking at,
You could say, if you take this grabber out and you bring back a big bag of trash, you get to keep it.
No.
well, if you bring back a big bag of cans, because we can sell the cans. and buy another.
Speaking of cans, I hope all of you brought your blue
I
bags.
forgot mine, but I have them.
I have 2 so cans. so-
I have
All right,
6.
no, I mean, because that is adding money and we can spend that money anyway we want.
Looking at the schedule on roadside, on this shorefront and roadside cleanup, if we wanted to try to do it in September, that's because if we have only one more meeting before that happens, unless we do it later in the month. Then we have 2 meetings. We have a meeting in August and a meeting in September. So if we're meeting on the 2nd, if we meet, and I think we should have 2 meetings on it at least, and one close to it. So when we start looking at the tide charts, we need to look at the tide charts that aligns with doing it at the time of day when we want to get it done. That's after our meeting in September. That's the one thing I'd say right now about this. Right. Okay. So what I'll do is, I don't have a tide chart, but I think I'd probably look it up online. I have to just find out when the high tides are. And we need to do it at the lowest tide, I'm assuming, right? We want to do it as close to dead low as possible, or, a little bit before dead low, so it's going out while people are working on it.
We're talking on a Saturday, right? Or,
Yeah, one would think at this point, right?
I just remember to mention.
Okay, all right, so I'm just gonna put this underneath the shoreline is tides after our meeting, after September meeting.
So unfortunately, the Saturday, September 24th, the tide is high at 11 a.m.
So it's an 8-hour tide around here?
So it will be low at 5 p.m. or it's low at 4:47 a.m.
Well, that's not.
Well, I mean, it does, if it started when the tide was
Like if
halfway
we
out.
did it 2 afternoon from 2 on, you
Right.
know, it would,
The tide would be down and going
Yeah,
out, right,
yeah.
all right. So the proposed time right now would be trying to do it at 2 o'clock on Saturday, the what date?
September 24th,
24th.
Low tide was 4,
5 p.m.
5, we could almost do 1.
Yeah, you could start it closer to noonish then. By
1
the-
or 1
Yeah,
o'clock.
one, or
All right, so I'll put 1 o'clock for the time
Tuesday,
being.
Well, if the goal is to be able to take what you collect to the transfer station, they close at 4.
Right, yeah. The one other, that's a good point. So then we have to figure out, everything needs to be at the transfer station by 4 o'clock.
and they need to be notified.
Yes. And I'm gonna put by 3:30, just, 3:30.
we could even make it earlier, maybe 12:30, and then getting on,
Right.
and then going out at 1. Meeting at 12:30, getting all the accoutrements. we
Yeah,
need.
I've been reading the local papers. The town of South Thomaston doesn't have like a column in any paper that I've seen, but
No.
No, we could again contact the Free Press. and-
Right,
yeah.
right. No, I'll start trying to get that together because there's gonna be other things for classes and lectures and stuff like that that you wanna publicize. And if we could have a list of like 3 or 4 places that you can list it, you know, anything that we wanna put out, we just write the release and disseminate it out through those 3 or 4 channels.
If we want to wait a week, the following Saturday, October 1st, it's low at 9:16 in the morning. So that might be a better fit, you know, people can get going early in the morning and be done with it and not the rest of the.
All right, well, we can, October what?
October 1st,
October 1st, and the low tide is at 9?
9:16.
Yeah, well, see, then the tide's gonna be coming
Coming
in,
in,
so
yeah.
it'll be in an hour before people get out there if they pick up stuff at the place and stuff, so I.
It's gonna be high at 3:30, so
Right.
there's plenty of time to do it in the morning.
Right. Does anybody have a thought on whether they think mornings are better than afternoons? If somebody's gonna do it, I don't think they're gonna care whether it's later in the day or in the morning.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, well, we can come up with a date, at the next meeting and then we can start.
I mean, I go
publicizing.
for the October 1st, I mean, that's not my best form of entertainment for a weekend to do trash pickup, so it's more of a chore.
Right.
So, you know, if I do it in the morning, then I have the rest of the weekend to
Good.
plan.
It's a good
my
point.
time, yeah.
Yeah, good point. Okay. Well, at this point, we don't have to get this date down and set in stone, but we do at the next meeting because that's when we'll start publicizing it. And then as far as the other issues about whether or not we want to do food and all that kind of stuff, in the sense of trying to make it a community program. And one of the things I will do is try to figure out how I can get younger kids from the school involved in it.
If school's in, that makes it a little easier too.
Right.
Now,
Well, it's in a
scattered
sense of
some.
it's a place to disseminate the information that is happening. But, you know, all right, so. And then I figured at the next meeting, when we talk about this, is that certain responsibilities will be assigned to members. It's like, you know, I'll follow through on this, you'll follow through on that, whatever, we can figure out what those particular things are. You know, if we do want to have food, we can arrange to have the stuff there and all that kind of thing, so, that's good. Anything else on this particular issue? All right. A report on responses to the sign-up sheet and surveys from town meeting. Yeah?
No, that's me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, it was, fairly anemic. There were almost 4 responses. I think I've been thinking and also listening to the select board last night and all the sign-up sheets they had out for vacancies on committees. They all came back blank.
Right,
It seems to me it would be a good idea if the 4 at the annual town meeting, before getting into the warrants and all that stuff, there was a part where there was just space for the select board to do or the committees to do a bit on, we've got vacancies, this is what we do, and we've got surveys and sign-up sheets for people who'd like to hear about our programs. Basically, you had to catch people on the fly as they're coming in and being bombarded with a whole bunch of different bits of information. And so like, I got exactly 4 surveys back.
Right.
One of them checked off everything, which in a way is not terribly enlightening. Of the ones who were a little selective, they all checked between 5 and 8 of the 14 choices. And the only ones that got 2 or 3 were birds of Westgate Marsh, geology of South Thomaston and Westgate River, sea level rise, invasive versus natives, composting, and solid waste recycling. And one person wrote in a comment that they'd like guided walks on things like the birds of Westgate Marsh and the geology. And I think, right, guided walks or live presentations of out in nature or whatever we can is a great idea. And we also had a sign-up sheet for who would like to be told about upcoming programs, and we got all of 2 signatures on that. So, but I really think it was a function of the way town meeting is organized, that there was this huge table of different things people were supposed to read, including the bylaws for the library
Right.
community. It was just overwhelming, and people plenty.
So your point being is we basically go to the selectmen and say, and speaking just for the Conservation Commission, but I understand that this would be good for any board in town to do the same thing, to go to the selectmen and request that when they look at next town meeting, is to budget 5 minutes for each board to sit up and plead its case.
Well, or budget a bit of time, no more than 5 minutes per committee, but any committee that wants
Right.
to, something. They had 92 people attending, and that was a wonderful captive audience, if only we could have reached them.
Right. I just, yes.
The outreach question is a very good and important one. And from past experience, when I was trying to get signatures for a cause, on voting day, that's when you have the best chance to meet people
Mhm.
when they come here to vote. And I assume we could ask permission to set up a table, probably with a poster, where if by that time we came up with the programs of things we intend to accomplish for this coming year, you know, if that includes guided walk or trail maintenance or trail improvement, you know, we can grab the people and spend some time talking to them one-on-one. And first ask them to volunteer, and then as they volunteer, you know, grab them to future fodder for commissioner. So it's something we may want to consider.
Right, and then what that would require is scheduling who's going to be there for X length of time, things like that.
But if we take like a 2-hour shift each, you know.
Or not, yeah. I don't think that's exclusive of doing it at town meeting. I think doing it in
The
both
more,
places.
more things we can try,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
better.
That gives us, yeah, twice
Yeah.
a year. That's a good.
That's a great Would people be happy if you and I sat down and cobbled together a letter putting this sort of request to the selectmen? Well, let me ask you first, would you want to get together and write a draft and I'll look at it, or I'll send you a draft?
Certainly, I'd like us to approach the selectmen. We
Okay.
haven't really given thought to what might be the best way.
Right, well, I'll tell you, if we could cobble together sort of a letter that we present to the board at the next meeting, we could sit back there and agree that, yeah, covers all the things that we're concerned with, so let's go to the selectmen with this. And we're speaking as members of the Conservation Commission, but as members of municipal boards and understanding the problem they're having with people signing up for stuff. We would like to consider this as
Yeah,
a
it's
period in
possible.
town meeting and allow us to set something up during voting. Okay,
Well, both things, you know, think
Okay.
about planning ahead for next town meeting, how
Right.
about thinking about this and also voting and any other opportunities? Like Henry, you were saying that one way to get hold of a lot of people is to show up at the library community center on a Saturday.
Right. Yeah. I will tell people that during the summer months, I basically have, it's my gallery, the summer is my scallop season. Saturdays are not a day I have free, but I'm more than willing to sit together, figure out what we want to put forward to people and stuff like that. I mean, one thing, if it's being represented as a conservation commission, I think it's a good idea that whoever wants to do that sits back and says, this is kind of what I'm going to say. Doesn't get it. Do you agree or? Yeah,
I'm fine with trying to
Okay.
figure out how we would put it to the select board.
yeah. So I'm just, this is under where I have to work with myself is things that I committed to, is to get together with you,
Mhm.
Sandra, and start working this out on a piece of paper. All right, so I'll write something up and send you a draft, and you can do it. It's not a bad idea for both of us to do it at the same time. So you send me a draft, I'll send you a draft, and then we'll just work the two of them together, figure out what's gonna work. So, okay,
It may need to be as this evolves. I mean.
Oh, yeah, no,
It
it's-
needs to be a conversation. with
yes,
the
no, this is
select
just how you get the ball rolling.
Right.
You gotta throw it out on the field, and you and I can we can bring
Right.
the ball to the field, that's what you and I can put together. Okay, that's great. Letter. Participation, I'm just gonna call it. To go back, what you were talking about, birds and geology, we have a pretty good source of a geologist to come and talk about, because that was mentioned from the discussion that went on at the library when I handed out the sign up, the sheet at the library. Is the one thing I kept hearing is geology really drew interest. The geology of the place, that and the birds really do draw interest.
I find it interesting that so many people are interested in geology.
Yeah, so I mean, as a sense of trying to establish a goal, using birds, it was birds particularly at Westgate March, not just,
Well, we had made this survey list and Birds of Westgate Marsh was one of them.
right. Okay, well, I think just as a goal is to sit back there and by the next meeting is to put some thought into, how we're going to.
I think if we can pick a couple of days, couple of topics, and then, the work would be find the appropriate speaker and get the commitment for dates, then right there, you already have something to submit to the public,
Right,
that's part of what we're going to do.
okay. Well, I'm just trying to say this
So I
is, that-
think if we get down to the agenda item that I added, it's about speakers. So why don't we talk about it then?
pull it together at that point.
Right.
Okay, all right, this makes sense, thank you. Dedicated distribution list, right now we have two names that you said people signed up, that said that they gave contact information that they'd like to be.
Well, the issue was more having select board approval to do it, and Theo was going to approach the select board. Oh, well, okay, my recollection, which might be off, was that we would like to have the ability to send out, like from the chair of the commission, a notice saying there will be a talk on invasive species at Guilford Butler Building on such and such a date.
Right.
With a speaker from yada yada. And we would have a list of people who had wanted to be notified of this kind of event. And we would not be going through Terry. We would propose to CC the select board and Terry, but so that we wouldn't run into the argument that we're creating more work for Terry. And we wouldn't just be adding these people to Terry's list of people who get everything
Okay,
about the town. There would be a dedicated, like the Historical Society has a dedicated list
right,
when they're having a meeting. But we thought that before we could proceed on that, we would need to run it by the select board and see if they were okay with it.
okay,
That was my recollection, and that I thought, Theo had said, but if we want to go back now and say, okay, this is something we're still talking about doing and somebody else can have a task, that's fine. too.
All right,
The Historical Society has thing, doesn't it go on the town website?
I think everything goes in the
And
town.
I think, you know, if you only get 2 people sign up. I
No,
don't
no,
know.
no, no,
So-
no, we know
so
now
far.
this, at this point, that we would send to.
But I do think, just to put, first of all, I'm not gonna have speakers every week or something like that. I'm only gonna happen maybe 3 times a year, maybe. And to put it on the website, I think the town website is, I think, where people would go first. And I just think that's-
But to me, at this point, I mean, I could see the value of it, but I don't think it's worth the effort to create that
I don't
when
either.
there is a town distribution
don't.
list. If people are not interested, they are not gonna read it. If they are, they will read it and put it in their calendar. I mean, that's the way it functions. So, I feel this shouldn't be a priority right now.
I agree.
Okay, so if that's the feeling, then we just,
That's just my feeling as well.
I think idea
I-
until
I
maybe
take,
way down the road if something changes.
yeah, so one point of this, Sandra's point, is I think that sending a letter to the selectmen stipulating that this is what, you know, that's the way we want to do it. I don't think it's a bad habit for this board to get, when it decides to do something new, that part of what we do is inform the selectmen that this is what we're doing. They may not be interested, but it's just a good habit to get into. So I'll write a little letter to the selectmen saying this is that we'd like to be able to use the town webpage to advertise any, you know, talks that we're having or walks or anything like that.
I don't, do we need to ask? We just do
It's not so
it.
much ask as to inform them that this is what we want to do, you know.
I
This is
think
what
we
we
just send a
already
memo
do.
to Terry, that he's, post that and it's done.
The one reason that I like to run things by the selectmen is that Terry is a moderately overworked position, and you're asking her to do something else. And anytime you're putting something new on the town employee's plate, you want to run it by the selectmen. And we
No.
would be putting something new
No,
on. And
I
I think maybe minutes in a day, but I got it, that's just the way I
Let's
feel
not
about
run
running
to
it.
a house on everything. I mean, and again, she likes, we send her the agenda and she forwards it, and that's the thing. It's just a forward, and I don't even know if she is the one who do it. There is an assistant now.
Yeah, probably his staff.
Yeah.
All right,
It is what is routinely done by all the entities created by the town.
is to utilize the town webpage to
Yes.
disseminate
Well,
information.
the town webpage and the town email list.
Okay,
It's not, this isn't new.
okay.
We are doing what we've always done.
All right, fine. That sounds good to me. So that's, let's get back on the page. So dedicated list,
We're dropping the idea.
we're sort of dropping that, and we're not particularly worried about whether or not, we're just gonna, if we have something that we want to disseminate to the town, we're just gonna send it to Terry and have her do
And even make,
normal
make,
operating procedure. Right.
make posters, put it up at the library,
Right.
put it right on that bulletin board. That's where I hear most of it.
As far as making posters go, I will say this right now, is don't ever ask me to make posters, because I can look something up 9 times, check it 4 times, and I will still spell it incorrectly. So,
I like to make posters.
excellent. I'm not gonna forget that. I'm not gonna forget that. All right, so we're gonna drop this, the dedicated, just from the list altogether. It won't show up in old business again. Collection of aluminum cans since the last meeting, please bring them in. We have 1 small bag of cans.
Those are mine.
I had 6, I forgot them.
Yeah, My problem is I don't drink it.
Next
I
meeting.
don't drink that.
I'm, okay, that may be true, but I started with cans because they're easy and usually pretty clean.
Right,
You can go on to beer bottles
Right.
or, all kinds of things that you can get money for. And it's only because if we raise money that way, we can spend it the way we want. We don't have to ask for a budget. We don't have to, it's our money to spend, and there's some advantages to it.
yes.
You love your cans, I don't.
And it's recycling and it's. all
I want to
good.
bring
I
any
know
more
that.
bags, but I did today,
I
so.
promise next meeting I'll bring.
Okay. It's just.
All right, this delivery of names of volunteers to town office for insurance coverage. I don't have any idea what this is.
I don't either. I don't know what that's about.
There is an issue about whether a volunteer is injured in helping us, and if so, is there a liability? And I don't know who said this, but apparently, if a volunteer is registered with the town office, they are covered by the town's insurance policy, but the town has to know about them in advance.
Right.
And we had talked about taking the names of sign-up sheets and so on, if somebody shows up for a cleanup,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
I do know that in the past, when it was run through, I know it was run through the library or Penny was just running it herself, that they did, because I did ask her about that and they haven't done that in the past, but I'm perfectly willing to draft a small question, a written question to selectmen. Saying, do you have a concern about this?
No, we were told because I'm on the budget committee,
Yes,
and when we're going through the budget lines for Conservation Commission, I looked at how much they had down for liability insurance for us, and it was $14. And I said, where does that number come from? And she said, well, there's 14 commissioners. And there's $2 for each of you.
okay,
So I said, so what about volunteers for cleanup? She said, if their names are sent to the town adds them to the list of town volunteers. And I think once they're added for any task, they're there. And then if they get injured in
That was
a cleanup.
okay, so what we really
So
need,
what we need to do is put together a list, for example, of all the people who volunteered for the cleanup day. Those are the only volunteers we have. We also need to be sure that our associate members are counted.
right,
That's what we need to do. When we have an activity, if we get to where we've got town members who are volunteering to do things like guided trail walks, then we need their names to be
okay,
sent to Terry. That's what it is about. And right now, the only names I know we need to be sure she has are, and it is gonna be playing catch up, but chances are the people that volunteered at the last cleanup day will volunteer at the next
Right.
cleanup day. And if we just keep doing this, there'll be the occasional person who, the first time they show up,
okay,
might not be covered, but we just need to stay on top of it and keep getting those names to
Right.
Terry.
okay. The one thing I kind of wrote down is check with the selectmen on that and just clarify the requirements for the liability.
I don't think there's a need to check because I raised this question and Terry gave this answer in a joint meeting of the budget committee and the select board.
Okay,
So none of this is news to them.
so even, the reason I'm wondering about that is this a volunteer that did an hour and a half in an entire calendar year for the town? As opposed to somebody that's volunteer, I don't know, for volunteer under the fire department, something like that. I can't think of any other municipal positions that are volunteer that you have a monthly responsibility or anything like that, but the fire department is.
I think their system is a little screwy. What they're basically saying is if we have their names down on a list
Okay.
and anything bad happens, they're covered.
Okay,
And that's all we need to worry about.
right, all right. I'm just looking at receiving the maps. I'm assuming that's what this is. I want to see what this comes after that. Yeah, okay, well, let's do that now.
And this is also Sandy Retzlaff gave us some, these were hers. So they are now in your custody,
All right,
and here's some more. But I think Andrew had made.
okay, so the question is trying to find someplace in the town office to store this.
Well, they should be used. I mean, there's multiple copies.
Right, yeah, no,
I think the commissioners should have any one of them they want. And I think we also should try to put them
We'll
on.
put them up, right.
Yeah, they're very attractive.
Yeah.
And he went to a lot of effort. to keep
Yeah,
them.
no, the biggest problem was trying to get them laminated. I remember you had to make them smaller and all that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, most towns, they end up posting these someplace because, man, I can spend an half hour just looking at the map on the wall, so. But I will, in the interim, I'll find a place that's in the town office to store them.
And if anybody sees Andrew, thank him. Because it was quite a gift.
Right.
But all these maps, you know, like, again, if you call the inland and wildlife fisheries, you know, you can get the whole set of maps. and-
Right.
Yeah, but you have to do that.
Yeah, and I'll try to put together a list, inventory list of what these are, how many copies of each we have. And if we're missing one of the strata, that they might have a map with it, it's a different
But, you
information.
know, there is a beautiful spot here, if we could pick one, because it will get noticed, even if it's just by the select board, you know, to raise interest or, you know, about something. So we should,
Yeah, well, at the next meeting, I'll bring in an inventory list of what's here, and we'll try to budget time at it to sit back and lay out at least one copy of each out on the table so that we're all aware of what's there. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep, okay. Review maps, so that's an agenda item. I'm thinking, where you wanted to talk about the, we're back up here. You wanted
Are you
to
talking
add
about
to
the educational program?
Hmm?
The educational
the-
program?
Yes, we were gonna combine
Yeah.
a topic that, I'm thinking before we get into the status and development of a mission statement, because that could take some time as we get that one done, okay? So if you want to bring that
Sure,
up.
it's very short.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, we talked about, everybody seemed interested in having a talk on invasive species. Now, invasive, that's huge. So, you know, invasive plants, invasive aquatic animals, invasive land animals. But you carve out a bit of it, whatever. I spoke with Rebecca Jacobs, who's program manager at Knox Lincoln Soil and Water Conservation District. She heads up their education programs, but also a lot else. She and her colleague, Louisa Crane, give a lot of talks on invasives. They'd be happy to come to talk to South Thomaston.
I'm sorry, would you repeat the names of the people again?
Right. Rebecca Jacobs.
Rebecca Jacobs.
Is head of she's program manager. And her colleague is Louisa Crane, and I went to a invasive plant walk Louisa led at Mary Spring. Anyway, they have a lot of other responsibilities and a lot of other talks scheduled. So they don't have room on their calendar till late October or November, December, January, but they're happy to come talk then. And it's almost felt to me at our last meeting that we weren't ready to do one real quick anyway.
Right.
So that could work out fine.
Right, so you were saying that October would be as soon as they could do it,
okay.
right? But they could do it up through November, December.
Catherine?
I'm wondering if there is a way to optimize the talks and their timeliness, you know, would it be better to hear, you know, we are getting advanced in the season, so either early so that people can recognize them and then eradicate them before they have a chance to spread. So wait until spring maybe to have that talk. Or is it okay, you know, I don't know the topic fully, or have it in the fall when things start to die. And again, how do you pull it out and not let it spread its seeds or whatever? So, but having it in December may not be the optimal time for me to, you know,
Well,
people to retain the information.
Yeah, if you can get the information out into the community, something they can use for the next 5 years. So as far as the timing of that goes, I think it fits more into when it's going to be convenient for them. I'm looking at, if you wanted to try to do it in October, we're already trying to do the shoreline cleanup.
Well, October's, they're already talking about late October. so
Okay.
November might be a likelier time to be able.
Right.
And what I said to them is, well, we can't tell you a date right now. We're gonna need to talk to the Historical Society and or the Penny about when one of their spaces would be available.
Right.
For the library.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean, the library.
Would you mind finding out whether they could do it in November? Just see if that's.
Oh, I think they could,
see if
we
it-
talk to the Historical Society.
No, talk to Rebecca
They
Jacobs.
can do it in November.
Okay,
The beginning of November, as soon as you start going into Thanksgiving and the
Yeah.
holidays.
Right.
Right now, if we could tell them a date in early November or possibly late October.
right,
But we're already, you're talking about the cleanup in early October.
Right.
So
Yeah.
late October.
yes, no, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, I can talk to them, but I need also to
Well,
pick a time that works for us and works for
the venue.
one of the venues
Yes.
that's available here.
All right,
Well,
just
the
make
thing
sure,
is, I mean, I think Penny would be fine, you know, we have plenty of time here, so.
Right, but we still need to find out a date when she hasn't already promised somebody else.
just make sure the agenda under, I guess it'd be old business then, because we're just talking about it at this meeting, this particular topic is notice that it needs to be put in the agenda. And if we can, figure out what venue or whether both of them would be available that month by the next meeting, that'd be a good idea. So I don't mind talking with Penny, see whether or not she'd have a problem with doing it in late October, early November, which I don't feature they would, and I don't feature the Historical Society's building, that there'd be a real problem with it.
No, but it's like if we
I
want
don't-
a lot more people, then again, if we're concerned about COVID, I don't know, that the bigger room might be better at the library.
Right, yeah, makes sense. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so let's use the library as the preferred
I
location.
can
just
start
in a
with the
sense.
library, but also I don't want to wait a month for our next meeting because these ladies' calendars may fill up and want to get to.
Yeah.
So I think we need to move.
Like, let's look at the calendar here.
All right, well, I mean, overall, the chance that I see the library not being able to accommodate us between the last week in October and the third week in November, is slim to none.
Yes.
They
So we
can't
need
do
to
it.
pick a date
So,
or,
yes,
or pick a group of dates and say, any of these works for us, what works for you.
right. Well, I would say
Yeah.
from the last week of October to the third week of November, or to say the second week. So it'd be like a 3 to 4 week period of their splitting October and November. Talk to them and see if they can do it. If you don't mind,
No,
meaning is that you-
that's not an issue,
So
but
which
Yeah.
night?
do we
are
need to
talking
pick a
about?
night that we're not conflicting with a town meeting?
Yes, that's why, like Tuesdays and
So
Thursdays
Tuesday.
after like board meetings.
Tuesdays and Thursdays are full of meetings.
So
Right.
Wednesdays, the third Wednesday is the planning board.
well, what about Fridays?
Friday, no.
Monday.
No, the last Wednesday of the month would be good, so that could be October the 26th.
Okay.
And then Wednesday the 2nd,
Oh, November.
yes,
Okay,
or even at the latest date to me would be November, Wednesday the 9th.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, overall, because we meet on Wednesdays, when we're trying to set these things
Oh,
up,
yeah.
well, it won't be that November 2nd, won't be the second Wednesday of the month. So it would be either the Wednesday, it would either be the
The
second,
9th would be the second Wednesday.
Yeah.
or the 16th. It would be November 16th or November
And that's a
2nd.
little late.
That's too close to
Right.
Thanksgiving. or-
So
And
if-
it's also, if you're trying to get people to recognize things to yank out, the earlier dates are better.
Yeah, I think so. So that's 2 dates,
That's
if you go
2
with the
dates.
2nd and the 26th.
All right, so preferred date of October 26th.
Yeah, and, I mean, yeah.
It's just a little earlier in the season. that's all.
First choice, yes, so you can present, our first choice would be October the 26th, our second would be November the 2nd.
Right,
And aren't there Tuesdays where the select board does, they pick,
Select board meetings on Tuesdays as well.
yeah, but they pick generally 2 Tuesdays in the month. Although they're a little random about which
Yeah, I
Tuesdays.
think it's choose, so.
Yeah, okay.
all right, you happy with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
but then we also wanted to talk more generally about where we're going with programs. And Theo, you had mentioned you would like to have a role in programs.
Very much so. Programming on certain topics. And right now, my topic is going to be the Maine Climate Council, which is something that, and I'm going to speak to the select board tomorrow night about that. Which, by the way, Henry, you're invited to.
okay,
I asked if the new chair could come.
Okay.
4:30 tomorrow.
where?
Wherever the select board's gonna be, I would assume it's here. And I'll be presenting, that was actually, it's on the agenda for its new business, item C.
Yeah, I gotta admit, 4:30 it's tough for me. My gallery's open from basically 11
Yeah,
in the
no,
morning
it's a
to 7
courtesy
at night.
to the
yeah.
new chair,
Right,
whoever the new chair
Right.
was.
okay,
So no, so I'll be presenting that, and if they do agree that they'd like to pursue that, that's gonna be a big job. So that would be my big job, and it would be a lot of educational programming. And, because that's the whole, it's an amazing program. And I'll be delighted if the select board agrees that they are willing to pursue it. I'll bring it to our next meeting. But first I have, because we can't do anything unless the select board is on board with it. So that's tomorrow. And so that would be my contribution to programming, but there'll be plenty of it. Mhm.
okay. So one other thing that came up with the change to the agenda was recreation.
Mhm.
Is that topic?
Are we done talking about the Maine Climate Conferencing?
Yeah, other, the fact that, Theo, you said that you were gonna talk to selectmen.
Yes,
on
because
that
there's
issue.
no point on me presenting it to you if the selectmen say they're not interested.
Right.
Well, but is that, can you at least explain what the intent is?
Yes, there's a lot of money on the table. And there's a procedure, and I know I circulated it, but if I didn't, I've got a copy here. There are 72 different kinds of things that this program will support, including heat pumps and new construction, a lot of window kind of things that you can get grant money for. So if we are going to build a new community center to replace the library, we could get a lot of money in building that. And some of it, if it's one on that list of 72 things, are, there's no match. In other words, we apply for a grant, we get the grant.
Or you don't have to come up with
You don't
municipal
have to
money
come up
either.
with, right?
Municipal money.
I mean, there's
besides.
like 7 clean electric vehicles.
Right.
Maybe you could be asking for an electric ambulance or something like that. But it starts with the select board, because town has to actively
Pursue it.
choose to participate.
But who would oversee that?
Well, I am willing to do it, but only after I know that the select board is going to support it, because I don't want to do a bunch of work and then have the
No, of
select
course
board
not.
say, we're not interested.
Thanks for doing that, but. we'll see you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, you may want to publicize it, because especially, and I think the word is that the furnace has to be replaced, so this is the perfect timing
Thank you,
to
that's what I
switch
think
to
too.
heat pumps. And then I talked to somebody from Revision this morning, and they have a nonprofit program where you can buy the power from a share, which is much cheaper. I mean, and he indicated they have a page on the website, so I'm gonna try to find it. I will forward that link to you. Because
And I've got a copy, if anybody wants to see it, I've already got that list of 72 things.
72, but also like,
Do you have a copy
the
right now?
heat pumps, I mean, it works great if you can have your own power. Obviously, still it's cheaper than oil and gas, but I mean, with my solar panels, every month this past year, I paid $14 to the utility.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, and, you know, the town doesn't have the solar panels yet, but there are ways of buying the power at a substantial discount. Not from buying by, you know, from the postcards you get in the mail, but by buying into a share.
Right, but that's one particular issue, and what you're bringing up is the fact is that there's a lot of things that they can apply
I'm
to.
gonna,
You're gonna find out whether the selectmen want to do it, and then.
that's what I'm gonna find out
right.
at 4:30
And if
tomorrow.
they do, let us know, and we'll keep it on the agenda.
As for the list, I was at the same
Yeah, would
select
you
board
pass
meeting.
this to Leslie?
Sure.
She wanted to see stuff. The blue page over here.
And the next 6 pages.
As far as time of the meeting
So-
goes, I'm gonna forestall any further discussion on this just because of the time of the meeting. If the select board wants to do it, then what the programs are and stuff become important, but.
That's exactly right, and
Okay.
that's why I'm not going any further until. I
Right,
know.
yeah, okay, all right, thank you. We did status and mission statement, status and development of the mission statement. I've seen that there's been a draft from other towns passed around.
Yes, I collected the mission statements from multiple towns. And there is a lot of repetition. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
there would be,
obviously
yeah.
all inspired by some legal documents that's out there.
Right.
And, you know, I read them all obviously, and the one from Gardiner is very short, but at the same time, I feel it's very complete. And, you know, I don't know that we want to plagiarize the whole thing, but, you know, this.
Well, I have no problem with changing it.
Well, that is
Yeah,
called then. for permission.
Yeah,
But, or we can tweak it, you know,
yeah.
slightly.
Could you get copies of those to Linda, and then she could disseminate them out?
I emailed it to everybody.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah, I
I was-
didn't- I didn't.
Yeah,
Well, I may not have
I got
the
it.
right email address.
Okay,
So-
No, that's something you have to deal with.
I'll write it down for you.
And if you wanted the Gardner, paragraph, I could tweak it, I could edit it.
Yes,
that
so
would be- yeah,
please
I would be
do.
happy to do that if
Yeah.
you want me to do that.
I mean, it's 2 sentences, so I'm happy to read it. It's like the mission of the committee is to restore, protect, and beautify Gardiner's publicly owned spaces by partnering with other groups, working with city departments, and enlisting volunteers. Through cooperation with landowners, we hope to encourage the same goals on private property. We want to create opportunities for all citizens to learn about, access, and enjoy our beautiful natural environment.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's clear, it's simple wording, and,
Right,
And short, which I think is good.
yeah, thank you. Anything else on that issue? Because if you said you'd be happy to
I
change
would
the word
just
and
tweak
send
it
it
a little
out.
bit so that it wouldn't be exactly the same, but very close.
If you wanted to send her one of the more complicated ones, just.
here's the whole thing.
Yes, who has it down? I gave it to.
It's over here.
Yeah, I'll just-
Oh, that's right,
Oh,
you
we've
already
got
sent it
your
on.
own copy.
Yeah,
Would you like
okay,
that?
all right.
Only I
Good.
can't walk. I
I'll
got-
get it.
I distributed it, and I probably,
I haven't- Wait a minute, it's coming to you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just looking at, we did elections of officers, organizing a public walk on the Stump Dump Trail. I would consider that sort of one of the recreation things.
Yes.
So this is a beginning step. Do we want to organize it? Is that?
That was your idea.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I don't know, I mean, do we have a map of that?
All right, I'll let you know.
That's what we have to find out, because I haven't been there for quite a few years.
Right.
There's a cart path or a road of some sort, but I don't know where it hits other, property, but we have a lot of, I just like to, we
Yeah,
need a map, we need a map.
right, yeah, no, I'll look it up. Yeah, I've seen it on maps and
Okay,
stuff,
like a
so.
real-
I was not there that day, but I know the other group at the walk that trail.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ad hoc group did that, Brenda and Andrew and, and.
When was that?
Oh, it's just before I moved to town because you
Yeah,
had just done it. You had
let
just
me
done
hear
it, then you
before
looked at our
we
property.
came up with
And they
the-
walked the whole,
Yes,
Yeah,
so,
it's quite impressive and it belongs to the town. That's the best part.
no, at the end of it, it's a right of way.
Okay, but I mean, the thing is, it's not.
But the right of way belongs to the town.
Well, no, I think some of them are, people being kind to allow people.
Oh,
to
okay.
walk on.
Like
Alright.
you and
All right,
but I'd like very much to do that.
And
Doesn't
how
make
many
any-
miles is it?
Can I speak to that? I've
Please
been
do.
there a couple times. Of course, it leaves the do not dump your stumps at stump dump area.
Right,
On the right, there is a gate there. And then it's a 2-track, as you were saying, that goes probably for a mile or so. And does kind of go into private property. It does go all the way through to Pearson Road.
Grayson Road,
yeah,
And the other end of it, which I surveyed because I'm looking for places to ride my mountain bike, looks like it comes out in someone's backyard. So clearly the far end of it is probably not town property.
Right.
Maybe it could be fixed up, or so it could be a loop would be wonderful.
right. Well, that's one of the things when I look at the overlays, whether or not they have the properties marked out and you can see what properties it goes through. So-
There is a town map that does show properties.
Right.
For tax purposes. and
Right.
others, And it's a long strip that goes back.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to make the corner. But anyway, it does go back to a lovely quarry, which we went to with Andrew and Sandy Retzlaff on the right. And then it goes by many other side paths that are kind of used by hunters. in
Right.
Season, and when I walked it in late, there was snow on the ground, a couple of snowmobiles went through it, so it is used by
Right,
people. But there are private property signs at almost every intersection.
okay,
And Sandy Retzlaff actually walked to try to get to your
right,
property, and we did walk all the way to 131, but I think we were trespassing. and
right,
We missed your piece of land.
yeah,
I guess that's what we want to be sure we're not trespassing.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as I said, hopefully, like, within a week, I'll spend some
Doesn't have to
significant
be in
time
September
inventory
or
what these
How
are.
much time should we schedule to do the back, to go and back?
Oh, half an hour to an hour, depending on people's.
Oh,
It's
it's
only
only-
1 mile long? I
Yes.
thought it was longer than that.
I don't think it would take that long. It does dip down and dip up. It's a pretty easy flat walk, except for just a little bit of a dip.
Is it possible to do a loop of some sort?
Well, that's where it does go straight back and then it turns south and goes into someone's yard. So I
Right.
think we need to investigate to find out between barking dogs and so forth. It looks like we'd be trespassing on someone's property.
So I really like to.
But this
no,
is where Jeff Smith, who owns 100 acres next to the town property, so that's private property, and he lets people walk across, but he's very much interested in actually having that land put into conservation for the town.
Good.
So, and I mean, last time I talked to him, and, he would be happy to have, either a bench or a kiosk, to explain things. And he mentioned he had, a quarry and also a small pond. So where animals were going to drink and so forth.
I think the biggest thing is going to be just clearing it.
Yeah,
So it's very clear where it's clear.
yeah,
There's
the
clear
path,
trails, markers.
maintaining the path, marking the path, yes. And, but, I'm not sure he wants people to hunt on it or,
Right.
I mean, you don't want to be walking on it during hunting season. if it's-
There's a lot of trails.
Well, I think overall, you want to look at a long-range plan for the
Oh,
Conservation
yeah.
Commission.
Oh, very
Looking at
long,
How we can, you make this, agreement with landowners and stuff, it teaches us a lot.
Yeah,
So it sounds like a pretty good project to, take a year and get it up off the ground.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
that would be the biggest one, if we could get that.
Yeah, because the one that I thought it hooked up to the end of my old road that goes in the back, but that actually that road comes out across from the library where the guy's got that huge pile of sawdust. There's a road that goes back in there, and that's the one that runs straight into mine. So as
I'd
far
really
as
like to see
crossing
it.
over from 70, from this road to 130.
So, Henry, I would suggest that I'd like to be available for this whenever the date is picked. I'd like to go in
Yeah.
with Linda because she's
Yeah.
interested in it. But that we take the town map and.
Figure who the property owners
and
are.
the GPS, the
Yeah,
iPhone, whatever,
Right.
figure out where we are as we go in.
right.
Can you look at the calendar?
It's a pretty easy walk, though.
Yeah.
It's a clear 2-track last time I was.
Oh, yeah, there aren't a lot of mountains around here, so.
Yeah.
It's
Should
wetlands,
we try
the
to
wetlands
pick a
are the
date
problem.
for that walk?
Yeah,
Yeah, I figured that road basically skirts every wetland on
well, we can pick a
the
date.
east side of the wetlands.
So
Yeah.
when would you like?
I'm pretty,
August?
yeah, sure.
Actually, August, I'm not gonna be here the last few weeks.
All right, so what we promised, I tried to accomplish by the time we pick this up under old business at the next meeting is to get a list of the property owners that this property goes, that this road goes.
I looked at them. Those two calendars, but I'm pretty open.
How about September? Too late or is that better?
I think September would be perfect, actually.
Yeah,
So do we keep that for Saturday?
right, so if it's in September, that means next month, I should have a list of the property owners that this road goes through, and then we can start publicizing, try to get, through the library, whatever systems we come up with to try to get a significant, a sufficient number of people to go
I
on.
like to walk the stump dump trail.
Yeah,
I think it's an intriguing name.
It is an intriguing name. Actually, at first I was thinking, yeah, I said, no, it's pretty cool, actually. Just like- Stump dump that doesn't take stuff.
September 10th, that's the 10th, the third is the Saturday of Labor Day weekend.
So maybe the one after
So the
that?
one after is the 10th.
That sounds good.
so what's the proposed date, September 10th?
Yes,
Stump walk,
don't,
And I'll make posters.
September 10th. All right, that's a goal, all right?
Yeah.
And so we can put that on items for the next agenda under old business, how we doing on the goal of September 10th walk, okay.
And I think no matter what, we can do that. If it's just us, if nothing else, we can.
You know, that's really a good place to start.
And last thing on the agenda was report on Maine's climate conference.
Which I already did.
yeah.
Yes,
It was, well, I mean, just, it was 8 hours. And they had, Shelley Pingree was there, and of
Nice.
course, the governor was there,
Yeah.
and she opened it, and I mean, some really high-placed people were at that, and they, and they. did
kind of
wonderful-
important.
It is, and then they had all these workshops, I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yes.
And if anybody wants to, look at the book and everything that came from that, but like I say, tomorrow.
Right. Did they give you, email addresses for the stuff that's in the book to go look it up online?
Oh,
Things
yeah.
like that. So if you can get a copy of what that is, then we
Well,
can
I've got the
send,
book,
right,
and actually, I gave copies to the
okay.
select persons.
So let's assume, I'm
So
assuming
they
that
got that material.
the book itself is actually online.
Well, it probably is.
Yes, and I was wondering if you could find out what that is, then
I know somebody who has access to a selectman who has a copy.
of the book, but I'm trying to,
Well, it's in the book. It would be in the book.
oh, okay, all right, yes, all right, yeah. Thank you.
I think they would be interested as long as somebody else is kind of overseeing it a bit. I mean, everyone's,
Yeah.
the selectmen, all of the selectmen work very, very hard.
They do, no
Believe me, I mean, they do.
And, yeah, so anyway, that would,
And John's the road commissioner, unpaid road commissioner, he's taking that one very seriously on Spruce Head Island Road, I'll tell you that, whoa.
I'm sorry for him. Because I've seen what happens with the price of asphalt.
He's out shoveling.
Yeah, no, I don't envy that position at all. Does anybody want to bring anything else up? If that's the case, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
All right, I'm gonna go try to woo my little stray dog. I know.
I only bring this up because, yes, that's what I was gonna ask. I'll give this to
that's
Sandra.
what you give her yours.
Right, okay.
Because you're chair.
Yeah, I have mine in my wallet.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm glad to be there.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll give this to you.
What is it?
It's your key to the front door. In case you ever have to conduct a meeting and lock up and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I get lost on the way here or something.
So Theo,
There you go.
if I just,
Google the community resilience partnership actions checklist. Does it say that?
oh, I do, I think they would love to give you one. But honestly, talk to John, it's a guy who takes this.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful book, you love it.
Is it? Yeah, it almost be good. Okay. I'll
No,
ask
it's-
them.
it's-
I'll ask them.
Yeah, no, they did a beautiful job on it.
Okay.
I read it.
I do want to say this, is if I send you a document that I consider a draft, understand, I consider it a draft, I'm not sensitive about you going.
Good night.
Or, you know, Yeah, be as honest as you need to be, because that's what a draft is all about.
Oh, I get that
Okay.
completely, that's how I work.
Yeah, same here, so, just want to, not hold back. Right. Yeah, okay.
I just want to understand.
Are you?
you willing to make sure this is your meeting?
I guess, but I'm under training.
The same here, yeah. I mean, you're ahead of me because you know how to turn it off.
So I really wanted to go, so I am insisting I'm gonna have to work. I'm gonna be on, but I want to go.
So did you set this up or was it just
I
sitting here?
said
You
it
know
up
that
with
organization,
Kelly.
Trackers?
Terry basically said that, and I was not but I plan to come in next month, early enough that she can help me again. And
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking
This
notes.
this is a good.
I don't ever catch everything.
Oh, no,
You
the
can-
other one is only do it once a month, so it gives you